Hey, Curtis.
Hey, Oz.
I hear you got a movie for us this week.
I do have a movie for us this week. This week, we're watching The Craft meets The Addams Family, crossed with An American Tail.
Oh, Fievel Goes West.
Fievel Goes West somewhere. This week's movie is 1990's The Witches.
I found myself watching this trying to think what my movie marriage would be, and I also had The Craft in there.
Yeah.
And just obviously for the witch aspect.
Yeah.
And Addams Family for hot Anjelica Huston, actually.
Ooh. Oh, man. She is smoking in this.
She really is.
Yeah.
And just having a ton of fun. Like,
oh, yeah. Oh, my God. She is so good at this movie.
Yeah.
Which we will get into, I'm sure, many a time over the course of the next hour or so.
But yeah, the Fievel Goes West, I like that. I like that a lot. Or the American Tail. It wasn't the sequel, Fievel Goes West. Let's not kid ourselves.
I was toying with An American Tail or The Rescuers, but I decided to go
either
with
one. Yeah,
American Tail just so I could sing a bit.
Welcome back, listeners and viewers, to another week of Let's Talk About Flicks, your weekly podcast where we take a monthly theme and alternate bringing movies to satisfy that theme. I am one of your hosts, Oz.
And I am Curtis.
And like Curtis said, we are here this week to talk about 1990's The Witches. Week 4 of creepy movies for kids. And the first one where I think we start actually dabbling into something that's like spooky. So
yeah, this is
although
a
lot of
film.
Fun.
Yeah.
This is I one of the things I would have put in the movie marriage was Dead Alive, if only for the baby in a stroller scene.
Dead Alive.
Shove a kid downhill in a stroller and
you're about to rape my dog.
Not all of it. But yeah, so The Witches. This is fun. It's been a while since I'd seen it, but it's a lot of fun.
Same. I'd only seen this movie once before, and it's probably been about a dozen years, so this was a delight to revisit.
Good times.
Yeah.
Before we get started on characters, I want to give a shout out to Patreon subscriber Don S. Thank you once again for your weekly patronage. Well,
Thanks,
monthly
Dad.
patronage. Monthly patronage.
He's weekly. That's how much he enjoys it.
We shout him out weekly, but he helps us out monthly. So if you would like to support the show, you can find our Patreon link down below. Follow the links, and we'd love to shout your name out from the rooftops each
literally
week
upon request.
Yeah,
I will literally get up on the roof and unrelated to the podcast, just shout your name.
Right. We'll shoot on location. So.
Don S.
It's like that episode of The Office where Michael's broke, so he just steps out and declares bankruptcy.
He declares, I declare bankruptcy.
Oh, characters for this fun little flick.
Let's hear some characters, Oz.
I've got 6 of them here. We've got our main character, Luke, played by Jason Fisher. He's a boy. A boy with a rough childhood.
Oh, yeah. Wow, there's a lot of trauma this kid endures.
Yeah, and you know what, though? He's just like, whatever. I get to hang out with my cigar-smoking grandma, Helga.
Yes. That is going to come back up later.
So, Helga is a very carefree grandmother / witch hunter, played by May Zetterling. She's just... everything in this movie is kooky. If you sit down to watch this and you're expecting everybody to be like on their A game, but they're like serious A game, then you're missing the point, because this movie is just a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But not in the walk hard Dewey Cox story vein of fun. This is just everybody here we're making a movie and it's a lot of fun, and it is.
The wrong mouse died.
We also have Anjelica Huston playing Miss Ernst, otherwise known as secretly the Grand High Witch, the highest ranking witch in the world. Mm-hmm. We are also treated to a very delightful performance from Rowan Atkinson playing Mr. Stringer, the hotel manager, I suppose. But it looks like, I know they didn't film this, but you also probably could have crossed it over with like the Grand Budapest Hotel. But yeah, Rowan Atkinson in a rare non-Mr. Bean role, where he actually has speaking parts.
Although
and he's not speaking like this.
I guess they filmed this movie about a year. They finished on it at least a year before it came out. It got shelved for a bit, and in that interim is when they started working on Mr. Bean.
Oh, okay.
And you see bits of Bean.
Oh, you do for sure
come out in his performance here.
Yeah, Mr. Bean is fun. I remember it was a couple of years ago. I think I was floating through Pluto or something, and there was a Mr. Bean movie on, but it was completely in French.
But this was more enjoyable that way.
But this was before my son could read. And so there were subtitles, so I could follow the storyline, but he couldn't read fast enough for the subtitles. But he and I sat and watched this entire French Mr. Bean movie, and he loved it because it didn't matter what the dialogue was. He just was watching. He just had a blast watching Rowan Atkinson Mr. Bean it up. I've got one character group here: Bruno Jenkins and his parents. I just clumped them together.
That's fair.
Bruno Jenkins is such a sweet name. But he's a bratty kid with bratty parents.
Oh, yeah.
If you haven't seen this movie, you could probably closely associate him to like the Dursleys in the Harry Potter world. You know, he's like the Dudley Dursley of just I'm the know-it-all bratty kid. But Bruno Jenkins, no relation to Leroy Jenkins of World of Warcraft fame. And
or
then
Cubs Hall of Famer Fergie Jenkins,
or him, unless Leroy. Are you familiar with the Leroy Jenkins meme where there's like a group and they're like before they like raid a cave to go fight this like monster troll or whatever, like they're standing outside as a group, but of course these are people all over the world, and they're trying to organize their battle plan, and they say okay, and then the one member of the group just yells Leroy Jenkins and just goes running in full speed by himself. And then our last character is Miss Irvine, who turns out to be a good witch, I guess. And so that's really it. You've got a whole slew of other background characters that are there, but really I think that probably covers the bulk of the important ones.
Yeah. I would argue there's really only like maybe 3 characters that matter.
Yeah. I would say probably Luke, Helga, Grand High Witch, and Mr. Stringer. That's probably the 4 that matter, and that's loose on Stringer even. Yeah. So that's what we're working with. I've laid out the playbill of our characters here. So run us through the witches.
The witches. We open on an Anjelica Huston cackle, which I can't get enough of Anjelica Huston in this movie.
She's fun to look at.
Yeah.
Most of the time, when she looked like Anjelica Huston.
Yes. We're reminded that this movie was based on a book by Roald Dahl. Apparently, he was not too thrilled with how they ended the movie.
No. But yeah, it did not satisfy the book's ending at all.
Yeah. So not uncommon, for prolific authors to not be fans of film adaptations.
Except Alan Moore. Alan Moore has been pleased with. He's been pleased with every film adaptation of his work.
Well, Alan Moore, he's such a charming, happy-go-lucky guy. That Alan Moore. Just back slapping, love signing autographs. He's so affable.
He loves being on set and just rubbing elbows with everybody. He's such just a joy.
Just personable, Alan Moore.
Right.
We're also reminded that this is a Jim Henson production, and this was the last movie Jim Henson actually worked on before his untimely death. So there's that. Also, that sort of, I guess, distinction to this film as well.
Adds a little bit of extra oomph.
Yeah. So we open up here with a narrator who it turns out is Helga, the grandma, talking about talking to her grandson regarding how witches coexist, how they are real, how that they dress in ordinary clothes, they lead ordinary lives, they hate children, wear wigs, itch under their hair, look hideous behind their human masks, have a purple tinge to their eyes, have no toes, wear plain shoes, and have a very strong sense of smell. So we learn pretty quick witches exist, and they have some quirks to them. Oz.
It's basically Elizabeth Taylor they just described.
I always suspected she didn't have toes.
Yeah, purple eyes and
Yeah. Strong
Liz
sense of
Taylor.
smell. That one of her signature moments in basically every movie she does. She just takes a moment and just kind of tips her head back. Yeah.
Smells like kids.
Yeah, smells like children. I remember that. I remember that scene in almost all of her movies.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's there. Just wait for it, folks. Grandma says she tells a story of when she was little. She had a friend named Erica, and Erica was kidnapped by witches. She then appeared in a painting that her father did after he was done with the painting.
It was a pretty messed up scene too.
Yeah.
It's here's Erica walking like the cobblestone streets or whatever, and then just snatched out from a doorway.
Yeah.
It's awful.
Yeah. So her father was a painter, and he had finished up with this painting, like weeks before, and then all of a sudden, after she was kidnapped, she appears in the painting, almost as if she's trapped there. So there's something supernatural going on.
Yeah. Which is pretty common. Which is common for witches.
Yeah. Grandma implies that she used to hunt witches. We get briefly Go ahead.
I just see her like with a Swisher Sweet hanging from her lip.
She got down at the Quick Mart.
Yeah. It's just I believe her as a witch hunter more than I believe Anthony Hopkins is a vampire hunter.
Well, at least Grandma, I would imagine when she takes out a witch, she takes that cigar out of her mouth and just puts it out in their forehead.
Probably.
I got really excited at a moment early in this film. You see Luke's parents. So again, Luke is Helga's grandson and the other main character here. You see his parents walk into the room momentarily, and I swear I almost jumped off the couch because I thought that the actor playing his father was Bryan Cranston.
Oh yeah, he did look like Bryan Cranston.
He's only there for a moment, and I'm watching with my spouse, and I turn to her and say, "Is that Bryan Cranston?" She's like, "No." I was so disappointed.
And then you looked at his mom and said, "Is that Bryan Cranston?"
No.
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 Are you Bryan Cranston?
Is that Hotel Bryan Cranston?
Is this glass of water Bryan Cranston?
The world is better with more Bryan Cranstons.
Right. It would be.
I will say, on that note, Oz, did you ever watch Malcolm in the Middle?
Not like a lot of it, but
Yeah.
I'm aware of it. Yeah, I watched some episodes.
Yeah, most people know Bryan Cranston, from Breaking Bad or some of his more recent films. I will always know him as Hal from Malcolm in the Middle. One of the funniest, consistently funniest performances you will see an actor at a sitcom do. Oh, he steals it. Him and Jane Kaczmarek are completely dominate that show. It's supposed to be about the kids in Malcolm, but they're so funny.
You mean somebody outshone Frankie Muniz?
The great acting talent and comedic timing of Frankie Muniz, but
right. How did anybody outshine him?
Or a Masterson brother?
Yeah, I like Bryan Cranston had to I'm sure he psyched himself in the mirror before every take. Like, come on, this is you. You don't want to fall out of the spotlight. Frankie's gonna steal this scene. You could do it, Big Bri. You got this.
Insert Masterson sibling will dominate if you don't dominate him.
Right. Oh, let's do it.
So the next morning, Luke comes downstairs, finds his parents' bedroom empty. The police show up, and Oz, this movie has a record screech moment pretty early on. His parents are dead.
Yeah.
They went out the night before. And they're dead. They died in a car accident.
Left you with Grandma. I thought you were going to say this movie took a real wrong turn.
I almost did, and it's like
so did the parents.
It's like a little inappropriate, but I guess we can frame it.
But yeah, for sure. Like, you stay with Grandma. We're going to run out and have a good time, and then they don't come back.
Nope, they're dead. So the Grandma moves them from Germany to England, which is where the rest of the movie is set. There's a little sequence of Luke playing up in a treehouse, and a witch approaches him.
Yeah.
So we get a taste of a witch in person there within minutes of the film starting.
Yeah, you're right, just right into it. And she hit every categorical trait that Grandma spun off. Like, she's going to entice you, and Luke held his ground, though. I don't think he would have if he didn't have the background knowledge, but
no,
Helga prepped him.
He saw the purple eyes, and he stayed put. Back inside, Grandma gives him some mice, which he names William and Mary.
Why wouldn't you?
Because, I don't know, maybe they're a fan of that old Virginia college. Then Grandma passes out because turns out she's got a case of the diabetes.
Yeah. Oh, all right. She didn't know it yet.
No.
It's late onset diabetes. Yeah. Snuck up on her.
Boo, diabetes.
It's probably the sugar diabetes that Wilford Brimley was warning us all about.
when like a 27-year-old Wilford Brimley was playing an old man in Cocoon.
Exactly. And an even older man in The Thing before that.
Yeah. Wilford Brimley has been 76 years old for the past 58 years.
But in all fairness, though, I'm sure when baby Wilford Brimley was born, before they even named him, they probably looked at him, saw he had a full mustache,
full walrus mustache.
Yeah, full walrus mustache, and I'm like, well, this must be Wilford the Walrus. And then they just
that boy's name was Wilfred.
They were going to name him like Tommy or Jimmy, but then like, no, this infant already looks like a grandfather, so let's give him a grandfather's name.
Wilfred.
So
they decide to go on vacation. Luke and Helga do. They go to a hotel by the ocean. And, of course, Luke brings the mice with, because, as one does.
What were they going to do? What was the plan for this vacation?
I think they were just going to kind of hang out. It doesn't really get into detail.
You want to go from our comfortable whatever we have here, our comfortable home. Hey, do you want to go to the edge of a cliff and stay in a hotel room with Grandma for the weekend?
Yay! Yeah! Can I bring my mice?
Right. Only if I can have my cigars.
You bring your mice, I'll bring the cigars. All will be well. As they enter the hotel, Miss Ernst, played by the one and only Anjelica Huston, pulls up, and she is greeted by several dozen fawning women.
Yeah,
there's
fans.
A big group of women
fans.
Who are just so thrilled to see her. They're just beside themselves. It's almost as if she's a it's kind of a rock star sort of persona and a rock star kind of moment. It's like the Beatles coming to America. We also meet Mr. Stringer, the hotel manager, played by Rowan Atkinson, a.k.a. Mr. Bean.
Yeah. He definitely has the Tim Curry and Home Alone 2 vibe going here.
We see on the hotel sign that the organization that Miss Ernst represents is the Royal Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Children.
It's a mouthful.
I might want to rethink that one. I don't know. That acronym doesn't exactly roll off the tongue.
It's not like you could shorten it up to SHIELD.
It's the 5th National Convention. The chairwoman, Eva Ernst, is there presiding. She walks by a portrait in the hotel and sees a child painted in there, kind of like the Erica painting, and she kind of takes them all and smirks at it. Miss Ernst is very dismissive of her fawning fans, which I found to be kind of funny and noteworthy both at the same time. We meet Bruno Jenkins. As he's in a dining hall, Luke comes across Bruno as he's basically helping himself to the pastries that are laid out there.
Yeah, I see diabetes in his future too.
if not his present.
That's true. And he has early onset diabetes. There's no like right time for diabetes in this movie. You either get it on like some random Wednesday night or
is it possible
or you're like
go ahead.
Or you're just working up to it as Bruno's doing.
Is it possible to have both type 1 and type 2 diabetes? I honestly don't know the answer to that.
I don't either.
I think Bruno might though.
Right.
He's kind
he'll graduate to the one he doesn't have.
Yeah. The Bruno character, he's, and I'm going to speak very plainly here, he's kind of the token, like, 80s, 90s movie fat kid.
No,
Normally,
by far.
I'm trying to say that descriptively, as it would be characterized at the time, because again, it's one of those in retrospect, like body shaming is bad. Yes.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
But there, I don't know. Again, it was just kind of a thing that
in this era, yes, like Bruno in this movie he's your Chunk in the Goonies.
Yeah.
He's your Horace in the Monster Squad. Mm-hmm. Like, he's the butt of every joke. He finds himself just kind of oafish and in situations, and nobody can really bear him, but they just deal with him, and very much so.
So we meet him. Grandma vaguely recognizes Miss Ernst. And it's kind of implied here, Oz. I think they're having a meal that Miss Ernst tried to give Helga sugar. So it's...
Yes.
So
like she knows.
Yeah, like Ernst must have recognized her, and she's like... she must have like diabetes radar or something. And
she can smell it. They have good smell. She could
smell the diabetes.
Yeah, she could smell the lack of insulin.
She could smell the diabetes.
I don't smell insulin in your bloodstream.
So yeah,
have some sugar.
Mr. Stringer then shows Miss Ernst and the group of women to a prepared ballroom. Luke was already in there. He was just kind of walking around with William and Mary,
bored
his mice.
and hide.
Yeah,
right.
So he just hides in there as Miss Ernst and this gaggle of very of fawning women walk in as well, and Mr. Bean leaves, and they're left to their own devices. And Luke immediately sees all of their eyes are purple, like the witch that he saw back at home. One almost takes off her wig before Mr. Stringer leaves, so just kind of nodding to the fact that they can't wait to get into their real selves here.
Yeah, she's an idiot, that one.
That witch.
She's the worst witch.
Yeah. Then we get full-on Anjelica Huston here, folks. She walks onto the stage, dramatically drops her overcoat, and just vamps for the camera.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think of like how to best describe her, but again, just sort of a vampish, glamorized, version of this almost kind of a cult leader as well.
Yeah, I would say you almost take like Morticia Addams and cross it with RuPaul.
That's not a bad descriptor, yeah.
Where you've got Anjelica Huston in this like morbid black outfit, but then add a little bit of, supermodel runway, oversell it. But yeah, I'll take Witches Anjelica Huston over Addams Family Anjelica Huston.
Yes, I would agree completely.
She looked great in both, but I would take her in that one.
Yeah,
and here.
Yeah, she's supposed to give off this like impenetrable sort of persona that her followers just can't get enough of, and she just owns the stage and owns these other witches here. After Mr. Bean leaves, they all remove their wigs and masks. Their noses grow, gnarled teeth and hands. Ms. Ernst looks hideous, as good as Anjelica Huston looks. Once we get the real witch version of her, ooh, there's like random patchy hairs coming out of her.
Right. It's like they turned her inside out and then let her talk. And it's all practical too, unlike the Anne Hathaway like CGI. No, this is all practical Jim Henson effects.
Yeah. She then lays into the other witches, says, basically, you're not doing your jobs. We need to get rid of kids. We need to eliminate every child in England. So she's got high goals. She's got a high bar for her coven here to take action on. One which says it can't be done, to which Miss Ernst then shoots laser eyes at her and reduces her to a pile of ash.
Right. You idiot.
Yeah. So she dusts her. Miss Ernst then gives them orders. Here's what you're going to do. You're going to go back to your homes across England. You're going to quit your jobs. And you're going to open a candy shop with this briefcase full of money that I am going to supply you.
Right. Yeah, in my Louis Vuitton, got a Louis Vuitton bag full of briefcases of money.
Yes. So here's your briefcase of money. Here's your Formula 86 potion, which you will then lace the candy with, turning the children into mice.
Right.
So that's the evildoer's plan here. That's what the villain is laying out. They then bring in Bruno.
Right.
We've got a special test here, folks.
Like, I wonder when I'd like to see this exchange. Like, hey, fat kid, you want some candy?
Yeah, basically.
Well, yeah. Meet me, come to this room at this time. Mm-hmm. There's so much, like, 90s era. Like, today, all of this would be, like, the underlying tone of this would be watch out for human trafficking.
Yeah.
But back in the 90s, it was all just, hey, kid.
Yeah.
I don't have a creepy van or anything, but I'm over here in the conference center. I got some candy for you.
So apparently she had sought him out earlier in the day because this Formula 86 has a time release when taken in small doses.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And so she had given him some earlier in the day, and she shows up and she counts down. She's got it down to the second. And he transforms into a mouse. Just like that in front of all of them. Very cool transformation sequence, by the way, with like the
creepy.
And with like the reverse shot with like the green smoke, like kind of coming back into the pile of clothes. Then the witches smell something that smells like dog droppings, because to witches, that's what children smell like. They smell like dog stuff.
To be fair, half of them do anyway.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
So kids, if you're listening, clean up.
So sorry to be the ones to bear this to you, but you smell like dog droppings.
You smell like dog poo.
So they find Luke, and Luke makes a rather athletic escape here.
You look at this kid who's training his mice to be circus mice.
Yeah.
And which, like, he's gonna grow up to be like Mr. Bobinski from Coraline. Mm-hmm. But yeah, then he goes all like Jean-Claude Van Damme, parkouring his way across, like, to get out of the way.
He's like crawling under legs, and and there's probably close to 100 people in this room, and they can't catch him.
I don't know how. Like, your hands not work? Like, just grab the kid.
There's one shot. It's one of those, like, just unfortunate, like, as much fun as this movie is, this sequence, I don't know. It didn't bother me. It was just like, like, really?
It was lacking, yeah.
Like, he jumps up on a piano, and then this, like, 10-year-old boy actor jumps off in slow motion as, like, witches are just, like, diving at him.
Yeah, it's like James Bond. It's like any, like, cold opening scene from a James Bond movie, only it's Luke in a room full of witches. Like, you think that there's no way he's going to get out of this, and then, he figures out a way.
He does, because whatever. Because the movie needs him to get out of the room.
Right, because he's the only other kid on film. And we've already moused one kid.
Yeah. So he gets out and hides. Ernst walks out and knows that this is probably a good kid with a good moral compass, and sees a baby in a baby stroller. And to draw Luke out, she pushes this baby stroller down a hill. And
but like the stroller's right next to the mother. Like, mom's sitting on a bench and the stroller's right there next to her. She just walks up to the stroller. Oh man.
Yeah, good thing Luke caught it though. Caught that baby. A la as your reference before, Dead Alive.
But he stopped short of, like, smacking the kid against the swing set pole on the way by.
So Luke ends up back in the hotel, goes to Grandma's room. He saved the baby. He's escaped the witches. Sees she's asleep, and Miss Ernst is right there. Yeah. Right there in his room. So she does reveal that she knows Helga is an old adversary. So she did try to over sugar Helga earlier. They then bring him back to this ballroom they were in earlier and force feed him an entire bottle of Formula 86.
No.
I know, which instantly transforms him into a mouse.
Yeah.
So both Bruno and Luke they're mice. Our lead character.
They're now puppet mice.
Yes. Depending on the shot.
Yeah.
I do say I didn't mind the puppet animatronics.
I didn't either.
Puppet mice.
Like I think they built up enough goodwill in this movie that you're watching a kids movie. You know you're watching a kids movie. And so we weren't tricked into believing it's something it's not. So it was by the time they got to the puppet mice, which were not great by any means, but you're still like, whatever, this is fun. It's it's so much fun anyway, you just go with it.
So Mouse Luke runs into Mouse Bruno, and they end up back in Helga's room, and of course they can speak, and they can speak at their regular volume and in their human voices.
Yeah, you see the lungs on these mice.
And the vocal cords.
Yeah.
So they're able to communicate with Helga, and they come up with a plan. We got to sneak into Ernst's room and steal all this Formula 86. It's the only way, and then we got to basically poison the witches.
Yeah,
so that's their plan.
They had heard that there was a special soup that the witches were going to get.
Yes.
And so if we can sneak into the kitchen like Ratatouille, and we can then empty all of this into their... Well, I guess it wouldn't have been Ratatouille because Helga went in. But if we can get in there and we could drop it into the vat of soup before they spoon it out, then we can, take them all out.
So, with Grandma's help, Mouse Luke goes in and finds the Formula 86 in these bottles in a hollowed-out book. We also have a little sequence here of, and I forget the character's name, as you named her earlier, Ernst's assistant, who's also
Miss
a witch.
Irvine.
Miss Irvine, yes.
Yeah.
So she's been kind of tagging along this whole time, and she's just kind of disgusted at things. I think she gets kind of fed up with the way Ernst treats her, and how she treats the other witches, and then she just basically quits. So put a bookmark in that one, folks.
Yeah, but don't forget Miss Irvine.
Yeah, because even despite the fact that she's a pretty forgettable character, because I forgot.
Yeah, very much so, but she makes one more appearance in our film. Mm-hmm. One that angered Roald Dahl.
Oh yeah, that's an understatement. Helga tries to tell Bruno's parents, "Your son's a mouse," but they just freak out because because she has a purse full of mice.
Yeah. And you just said your kid is a mouse.
Yeah, this mouse right here.
Yeah.
So they, I think, probably appropriately respond and tell her off. Yeah. There's a fun sequence of Mouse Luke making his way through the kitchen, and there's they kind of highlight all the dangers that a mouse would have in a kitchen, like boiling pots and like pots and pans like clanging, and there's like people sharpening knives, and it's just a fun little sequence of him kind of running around there.
I feel like every movie that has a scene, like an extended scene in a kitchen, like a restaurant's kitchen, like everybody's doing the same thing. There's always pots and pans banging around. There's always knives being sharpened. Like
there's always a giant vat of soup.
And everybody's always dressed all in white.
Like stereotypical chef, yeah.
Like once you go back between those like double French doors, like it's the same kitchen.
Yeah.
Whether it be Ratatouille or the witches or even Karate Kid, like it's always the same kitchen.
They probably have one kitchen set in Hollywood, and
it's like that Hollywood approach to like, if you're going grocery shopping, make sure you have a baguette sticking out of the brown paper bag. That's
true.
It's just this is what people think it is like, so this is what it's going to be like.
Yeah, you get an entire loaf of bread.
Yeah. Unwrapped.
Just sticking out by a foot, out of the brown paper bag.
Right.
And there's also like leafy greens on the other side.
Exactly. I was going to say the same thing. There's always like carrot leaves sticking out next to
it. I only go shopping that way. When I go to the grocery store, it's all about the walk back to the car.
Right.
It's not what's in the bag. It's what the bag looks like to my fellow community members.
Right.
So Luke makes his way into the kitchen, and he gets the bottle. He basically just dumps the entire bottle in this vat of soup. There's a witch who's like a plant who works at the hotel, who's like a sous chef, and she tastes it and turns into a mouse. So it clearly works.
Yep. Plan is successful.
Mm-hmm. And this little witch mouse runs out to try to warn Ernst, and Ernst just squishes her with like an over the top like sound.
It's like she was like the sound effect they used was like, "Hey, go get some Nickelodeon's Gack and let's step on Gack."
I wonder whoever does the captioning for that part of the movie. How do you phonetically spell?
I would just put squish like Gack.
Yeah, that works too. So basically, all the witches start eating the soup. Bruno's dad, because that's the character he is. He sees all these witches and he's like, I want that soup. I want the soup they're having. Well, sir, he's
a jerk.
Yeah, he's very entitled, well-to-do man.
Yeah.
Helga saves him by just dumping his soup on the table.
Oops. Like there's the crazy mouse woman again. Oops.
Yeah. So all the witches turn, including Ernst. Grandma traps mouse Ernst under like an upside down like water pitcher.
Oh yeah.
And Mr. Bean, Stringer, whatever, he's Mr. Bean to me.
Yeah, he's Mr. Bean.
He's Mr. Bean. He walks in with a giant meat cleaver and chops Mouse Ernst in half.
Yeah, it's
complete with like gooey green like
yeah, like sounds like Gack.
Yep. Insert Gack sound. And yeah, so that ends the vacation scene. We then get a little epilogue. Back home, Luke arranged to have all of Ernst's money and her American witch contact list shipped home. Okay. And then Miss Irvine shows up and magically changes Luke back into a human.
From way outside. Like, she's got some wand skills this one.
Yeah, she does.
Because they are inside a dark room. She can't even see them. But...
I mean, it gets through, like, the fiberglass insulation and everything.
Yeah. Well, she returns William and Mary. Mm-hmm. You know, because she just, poof, magically show up in the cage. And I don't know.
And that's it.
Yeah.
That's it. That's 1990s The Witches.
Very simple film.
Yeah.
But just fun. So much fun. So much fun.
So, yeah. That's it. Very fun movie. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Did Bruno get turned back?
Not on camera. She
right.
As Irvine is leaving, either Luke or Helga yells out, like, "Don't forget to turn Bruno back."
Oh, that's right. So, and then she drives off with a big smile on her face, like, man, I'd be weirded out. Like Miss Irvine just knew where they lived.
Well, I mean, she's a witch.
Nah, I know.
Maybe she used her witch powers to track him down or something.
Now, would she now be the who's the new Grand High Witch? Would it be Miss Irvine?
I don't know.
Is there an election? I don't know. I don't know.
Questions that the movie leaves unanswered, I guess.
Listeners, if you know who the new Grand High Witch is, just comment down below or whatever you feel like you need to do to let us know.
Maybe The Craft was a sequel to this.
Probably was. Mano, he was the new Grand High Witch.
And Fairuza Balk.
I like Fairuza Balk.
Yeah,
we should cover a movie with. We
should cover a movie with Fairuza Balk. I wonder if that's going to come back around.
Waterboy, probably.
It'll be the Waterboy.
Yeah.
All right, at this point in the show, folks, Oz and I give our own unique rating to the film we've been yapping about. In this case, 1990's The Witches. Oz, how would you rate this film?
I give it an 86.
Just 86?
Well, it's like the potion number.
There you go. Potion 86?
Yeah. I wonder what potions 1 through 85 did.
Probably it was part of a Chanel line.
I'm sure it was. It's like they skipped number 9 because that's the love potion.
Potion 86 by Calvin
we know
Klein.
We know number 5 made you smell good, and we know number 9 made you fall in love. But I wonder what the others did. But you're right; it's probably a new eau de parfum by Calvin Klein. So, how about you? What's your rating?
Oh, my rating. Let's see. I did not prepare a rating for this one.
I didn't either.
I don't think you never do. You come up with them on the spot typically, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I usually pre-prepare a rating. My rating for this is going to be 2, as in diabetes type 2.
All right. Oh, I did look up while we were talking earlier. There is a new, basically it's called hybrid diabetes. And this is from a government website. Hybrid diabetes is where a diabetic person does demonstrate both type 1 and type 2 diabetes.
Okay.
So I'm sorry if you suffer from the double diabetes.
The double D, as they call it in the diabetic world.
It's worse than double dare. Mark Summers is still the spokesman, though, for double diabetes awareness.
For double dare, double diabetes.
Right, double diabetes awareness. So just remember, if you're faced with double diabetes, you can always take the physical challenge. Where they make you reach up a giant nose to find the orange flag and all the boogers.
And instead, this time you pull out a syringe full of insulin.
So ask that of your primary care physician if you've been diagnosed with double diabetes. If you could opt to take the physical challenge.
We express our apologies to the American Diabetes Association, as well as all of those who live with and survive with diabetes.
Right.
Next up in our show here, folks, we have our next segment, Outside Insight, where Oz and I each bring you some other kind of informal, unofficial review that we found on the interwebs. Oz, what is your Outside Insight?
Mine might be from a witch. Anastasia on Rotten Tomatoes gives it 5 stars. Her review: this tale scared me as a child, but I also remember it. That's a review.
That's all? That's it?
That's it.
It scared
me, but I also remember it.
Well, I mean, trauma can work that way. Sometimes trauma can cause cause memories to be incomplete or adapted. But apparently, in this case,
Anastasia has risen above it.
Yeah,
she has faced her fear. She's not afraid of the unknown. She remembers what scares her.
Anastasia has worked through years of therapy and developed her resilience that has kept her memory intact.
Right, this tale scared me as a child, but I also remember it.
I also remember it.
I have not suppressed this to the point that it no longer exists.
It is part of my reality, and I own that.
I once lived in fear of the witches. I no longer am afraid.
Oh, man. My Outside Insight is titled Unjustly Forgotten Fantasy, and it's by Preppy-3 from IMDb. Very strange fantasy in which a young boy Luke and his friend Bruno get in trouble with some witches. Luke's Norwegian aunt, a former witch, helps him battle.
I think at least he was paying attention.
I don't think Preppy-3 was fact-checked here very well. When this film came out in 1990, critics loved it, but audiences stayed away. Real witches attacked the film because it portrayed witches as evil, ugly, and wanting to kill all children. They overreacted. It's just a fantasy.
You dumb witches.
Fantasy is all caps.
Oh, man.
It was way too strong and strange to attract a family audience. Too scary for kids, and adults assumed it was a kids' movie. But it's a good fantasy for high schoolers and adults. Real witches attacked it.
Preppy-3. I'm just envisioning women in like cloaks and pointy hats with brims, just with their broomsticks, just marching in protest to how the witch was how Witches was received. Like, Witches, this wasn't a documentary. It's fantasy.
I mean, it's in all caps, fantasy. It's right there.
I'm glad Preppy-3 cleared it up for all,
I
all the necromancy going on in the world.
I mean, I read the review first before I watched it. It was like, oh man, what am I getting myself into? I'm probably gonna end up on a list.
I know it scared Anastasia M as a child, so Preppy-3 was onto something. This is too strong and scary for children.
Yeah,
like
Anastasia.
Anastasia.
It's because real witches attacked it. Oh man.
Oh.
So yeah, couple good outside insights this week. All right, as we start to work towards our conclusion here, our signature segment.
It's the one you all are talking about.
Yes, all the kids are talking about. The 3, 2, 1 in which Oz and I each share 3 goods, 2 bads, and 1 about the movie in discussion, in this case, The Witches. Oz, what are your 3 goods?
I watched this as usual. I also read the trivia afterwards. You read the trivia afterwards. Mm. It's what a normal person does.
Yeah.
But while watching it, before I read the trivia, I was like, look at all the bald men in drag as witches. I just enjoyed that. It was fun for me to be like, we can't get enough women to play female witches in this movie. Let's get some men just so we can ugly up the women. Like, you're going to sit over here in your muumuu or your dress and just look like a big, burly, bald man.
Yeah.
And you're just going to come off and look like an ugly witch. So that was my first good, was just all the men in drag and the convention of women.
As I was watching it again, I had completely forgotten about that, and I did not read the trivia first. And so I'm watching it and like, man, I feel awful for thinking this, but those are some really... ugly
women.
And in my head, I'm like, oh man, you're a terrible person for thinking this. But it turns out that they were men. So
yeah, they were men. And so that's good. It's kind of like in what was the movie? Oh, Home Alone, where when Chris Columbus wanted to cast like a chubby, ugly girl to be Buzz's girlfriend, but he actually cast a young man because he felt awful like hiring an actress just to be the ugly girlfriend. Yeah. So, it's kind of that same way of like, we're gonna take some of these women that we want to look really masculine and grotesque, and we're just gonna make sure they're men. So that was my first good. I thought that was a fun little touch.
There's a lot of wide jaws in the audience there.
Look at those shoulders. That woman's a linebacker. My second good is I like the plan of Miss Ernst too. You guys are going to quit your jobs. I'm going to give you money to open a candy shop, and we're going to trap these kids. Just think like, what if Luke and Helga's plan didn't work? Like, think of all of these, all the candy shops popping up all throughout England, which probably all over the world, because you would imagine that, as the Grand High Witch, she's hitting up all over the world with these plans. And I'm just thinking like, picturing all the witch doctor conference down in Haiti and all the candy shops opening up in Haiti.
The high-end candy shops.
Yeah, this is our plan. This is the plan. So I like that plan. It was just a matter of fact. You guys are going to go home. You're going to quit your jobs. I'm going to give you money. You're going to open a candy shop, or we're going to trap these kids. Like, I don't care what you think about it. I'm the Grand High Witch. There you go.
And one witch questioned her, and then she got purple eye lasered, and the rest are like, okay, we got it.
You're zapped. I'm in. My third good is good Jim Henson makeup effects.
Yes.
The witches, when they witched out, they look great. I mean, they were so gnarly and grotesque, but not like, they weren't horror movie witches. Witches. They were, they were just like creepy kids fantasy movie witches. They were. I mean, and normally when you're watching, movie, like especially horror films with witches, if they are like your stereotypical witch, haggard looking thing, a lot of times they're kind of hiding them in shadows and making them dark because it's a horror film. Where here they're like in a ballroom. So
they're like a hotel conference center.
Yeah, so it's well lit, and so you really had to make sure your special effects were up.
Well, I mean, when you have your conference at a La Quinta Inn, I mean, it's gonna be well lit.
I do. I felt like this would have been like an early flashback weekend we would have attended back. Yeah. So, and then, like I said, those good Jim Henson effects. That was my third good.
Yeah.
How about you?
Excellent choices, Oz. I think you left one for me, and I'm going to grab the obvious one first. Anjelica Huston.
Yep, I did. I left her.
She is just amazing in this film. So much charisma, so much personality, and you get a feeling that the director and the creative team just told her just be your vampy best.
Yeah, and have fun.
And she did not disappoint. She adopted this kind of German sort of like syntax and it was just she again, like I think your comparison before was amazing. Was it Morticia Addams with RuPaul, and just dialed up even more, and it was just like she owned every scene she was in.
By far.
And it was never like despite the fact you would argue she was overacting, it never felt like overacting.
Because she reined it in. She's such a good actress that even overacting, she knew how to do it right.
Yeah. This isn't like Al Pacino in like a mid-90s movie. Like she just owns every scene she's in, and again, just so much energy. And even though she's the villain, like you want to see more of her. And she's just one of the most fun performances that I have seen in a long time in any movie I've watched, new or old. My second good, the sweet relationship between Helga and Luke. I thought that they had a genuine connection. They were both they didn't get too much into their grieving, but you got an idea that they were grieving together. There was just a tiny little scene at the beginning before they went to the hotel where they're kind of coping together, and I don't know. I thought it was very sweet the way they interacted and trusted each other. My last good is a couple little moments that were pretty inconsequential to the movie, but I like the little like 15 seconds here, 15 seconds there between Mr. Stringer and his girlfriend, who was I think like a hotel maid there. And just little things, like they clearly. I think there was one sequence where it's implied that they had just gotten done, kind of like having an adult moment together, and they're trying to like tell another coworker what was going on, and they're just kind of like fumbling their way through it. And like there's a sequence where like she walks in and finds the Formula 86 and dabs a little bit behind behind her cheekbone, and then later in the film she's got this big hairy mole there, and I don't know, it's just fun little things that they didn't linger, they didn't take anything away from the film, but just fun little bits. So yeah, those are my three goods, Oz. What are your two bads?
My first bad is, and as a former photographer, we talked a little bit about it last week when we were introing this movie, is the use of a wide-angle lens and what it does to features. Wide-angle lenses will stretch things out. So when you're shooting a human with a wide-angle lens, it does distort things, which in this movie is fine. I just think there was just too much use of wide-angle lens in this movie. It's like they would use it as close-ups on the witches to make them look worse. Fine. But then they would also use it to show the point of view of the mice. And, it's like it felt like it was like, hey, we got this new camera lens, let's try it out. And then they just overdid it. It didn't take away from the movie at all, but I just felt it was just too much wide angle lens, especially when you're making it the mice point of view, but you're also just using it to glorify in a negative way the witches look, to make them look even more distorted or whatever. It's like, pick one or the other. Pick a lane, I guess is the common thing that we run here, is use it for one or the other, because it's too much. When you have a movie full of witches and mice, you're going to end up having a lot of wide angle lens. And my second is kind of contrast my third good of good Jim Henson makeup effects, bad Jim Henson puppets. This movie is 8 years after The Dark Crystal, and the puppetry in Jim Henson's The Dark Crystal was way better than the mouse puppetry of this movie. And like I said, I wasn't wanting to be convinced that they were real mice, because I knew they weren't real mice. But it may have some. Well, no, because I don't know. It didn't detract from the movie, but it wasn't Henson's greatest puppetry work.
It's fair.
And so that was really it may just be because of the size of them, because they were smaller puppets. But it is what it is. I was having a hard time coming up with a second one. So
Sure.
That's my other bad. How about you?
My two bads. My first is, we kind of mentioned this a little bit before, so I won't go into too much detail. Just, it's one of those relic of an era, the fat kid shaming. Like, ugh, like, okay. Like, yeah, it's the fat kid is a slob trope. The fat kid is entitled trope. The fat kid is there to fail at something.
And eat.
Yes, and be gluttonous.
Yeah.
Like, all right. I'm glad that, you don't see that kind of trope nearly as much today, just like body shaming and things like that.
Right.
It's like, come on. You're better than that. My other bad is Luke's escape from the witch convention the first time around.
Yeah.
How he's like parkouring his way through, and American Ninja Warrior his way through. And it's obviously a 10-year-old doing this. It's not a stunt person. I don't think they even did a good job of kind of making it look like a daring escape. It was just, here's a 10-year-old crawling under people's legs, and now
and
he's
you
on
guys,
the piano, and he just jumped 2 feet in slow motion.
You guys make sure you almost catch him. You could tell all the adult actors in the scene are pulling back.
Yes.
To avoid ending it the way it should have been ended.
Now trip over each other. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just like, okay. And again, inconsequential to the movie. And I think both of us are being a little nitpicky.
Oh, yeah.
In our bads here, because we both enjoyed this movie. Oz, what's your one, huh?
All right. So we're talking about the Grand High Witch, the highest ranking witch in the world. Mm-hmm. And renting a banquet room at a hotel is the best she can do to bring all of the witches of England together. Like, there's no like special meeting area, or let's go to the woods, or we're gonna rent out the reception hall at over at the hotel, and that's where we're gonna meet
at the local Sheraton.
Exactly. That's what it felt like. Is like, hey, I've got some points at the Holiday Inn Express, so you guys make sure when you call, you ask for my rate so you can be on my floor.
Get the room block.
But it just feels like that's it. Like there was just no security. Like you guys all witched out. Like all it took was anybody to inadvertently come in.
Anybody could have been like, "Yo, where's the make your own waffle bar?" Oh, witches!
Sorry.
Oh,
right. No! But that was it. That's all they did. So that was my huh. It's like, that's the best you could do? It's just renting a banquet hall? What was yours?
My huh is, how many cigars does Helga smoke a day?
She rolls them herself.
I mean, it's probably not good if you got the diabetes, but
it's
She was putting those cigars back something fierce in this movie.
And she's an older lady. I don't think it's a habit she just picked up.
Yeah, she's been doing it for a while. So yeah, that's my huh. And that, folks, was 1990's The Witches.
The Witches.
Oz, what do we got in store next week?
Next week, we are going to wrap up Creepy Movies for Kids month. We're going to wrap up Creepy Movies for Kids Month with the sequel to the 1939 classic Wizard of Oz, Fairuza Balk's Return to Oz, a Disney presentation. Arguably one of the darkest Disney presentations that we've probably ever seen. And so, yeah, we're wrapping it up with Return to Oz. At the time, held the record for longest span between original and sequel. It was like 1985, I believe. All right, so yeah, we're going to be covering 1985's Return to Oz. So, you know what to do. You can find us on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, etc. You can also hit us up on YouTube, your favorite podcast apps, etc. So make sure you come back next week, listen to our Return to Oz special as we wrap up Creepy Movies for Kids. Curtis and I will... I'm stumbling over this. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen. We will see you next week.